And welcome back to Ladies Can We Talk. I'm so happy you're here to join us. This is Debbie Georgatos, and I'm here tonight with Carrie Kellerman and Jenny McGarry, and we have online our guest tonight. I think it's the first time we've had a guest from the American Enterprise Institute, Mr. Gerard Robinson. Hello, sir. Oops, do we have him? Okay.
Yes. This is Gerard Robinson. Glad to be on board.
Oh, thank you so much. Hello, sir. Well, I surprisingly got talking too long in the last segment, and I did not have a chance to properly introduce you. So I'm going to quick tell our listeners that this is the American Enterprise Institute, and Gerard Robinson is joining us tonight to talk about, I thought this was the coolest thing. I literally stumbled across it on the internet, this project that was taken on by the American Enterprise Institute to focus on essentially reentry of people who are leaving the prison system and coming back into American life and helping them in various ways through policy. So I guess to start with, would you tell our listeners a little bit about what American Enterprise Institute is all about?
Sure. So AEI is a private nonprofit institution dedicated to research and education on various issues. Education is one of them. We primarily focus research on economics, foreign defense policy, politics and public opinion, health, energy, the environment, and, of course, society and culture. We believe that freedom, that ideas matter, and we believe that in order to have a prosperous, safe, and more democratic nation, that we need a safe place for people to talk across the line. And we've had conversations with conservatives and liberals. And with an issue like criminal justice reform, for us, we believe that it's important for all people to come to the table and to have a dialogue. Because at the end of the day, the question isn't right or left, but the question is, what are we going to do that's right to help children who've been left behind by parents who are incarcerated, and to make sure that we leave policies behind that don't work and embrace particularly free market principles that do.
Love that. I love it. It's a great intro. You know, you used an expression you did that I use all the time, which is ideas matter. It's just amazing how people can think there should be solutions, but they have to step back and think, where will this policy take us? How do you solve it if you don't talk about ideas and come up with different policies? And I've always described American Enterprise Institute as a think tank. Do you use that term about yourselves?
Yes, we are a think tank as well as a do tank.
Oh, I like that. Do tank. Okay. Well, the specific thing, and again, we have not met, and so I don't think you've probably been tuned into our show before, but another point I try to make all the time is that America is full of good people and good organizations that work very hard to do good for their fellow man, to try to find solutions to help each other. And this struck me so much that you were trying to focus on what do you do with children whose parents are incarcerated, who's looking after their education. And so just tell me more about how you came up with this idea and what some of your thoughts were about that.
So if we take a look at the broad picture, we have approximately 7.7 million Americans who have done time at one point in their life in our either federal or state prison system. We currently have 2.2 million people who are incarcerated, and we know that in 2014 there were at least 640,000 people who were released. Now, those are the large numbers, and when we think of prison, we think of adults. But many adults are also parents, and that's something that we often forget in our conversation. And so if you look at the fact that between 1980 and 2000, the number of children with a father in prison rose 500%. And at least 45% of men in state or federal prison are aged 24 or younger, and their fathers. Approximately 48% of women in state prisons who are 24 or younger are mothers. And as someone who began my career as a fifth grade school teacher, then pulled into public policy, I began to say, So we talk at a national level about children left behind that primarily focused on academics. What about the children who are left behind because of incarceration? And so a few people within AEI decided to work together and see what we can do from a free market standpoint to provide a description of the problem and a host of solutions. And this is something that we think is important. Now, I've got to tell you, there are several people who said, why is AEI focused on this issue? I have two responses. First, AEI should be focused because this is a human dignity issue and one where we believe that human assets matter. And number two, We've heard a lot of people, other think tanks, I should say, weigh in. This is an issue we should weigh in on as well. And as a result, people from the left, the right, the middle are, paying attention to what we're doing, and I think that's a step in the right direction.
I just love that. And, I honestly had not thought about it. I feel kind of selfish now that I am focused on it. I've never thought about that. You have parents incarcerated who literally have no interaction or very limited interaction with their children. They're not able to figure out what their academic needs are, figure out whether they should transfer a different school, try to move. So the community really has to step in, a community of families, I guess. But do you have some policy ideas to address this?
So right now, the federal government, through one of its federal bureaus dealing with incarcerated families, they have a program in place to actually support school systems with children. So that's something we know is in place. A few weeks ago, the White House had an event as part of its National Reentry Week, and our Attorney General, Lynch, she also supported a program to make sure that there are at least 4 cities where there would be a pilot project to deal with families who have children that are incarcerated. So at the federal level, there are plans in place. There are also plans at the state and local level. But for me, I think we've got to do something as relates to what I call civil society. And a civil society approach for me is a broad, open arms approach. I think it's unrealistic to expect our public schools to do everything for every child. It's simply impossible to do practically, but I'm not also sure morally that it's the right thing to do. We have to rely on faith-based organizations, for-profit and non-profit institutions, as well as professional volunteers to say, school principal, what can we do to support you, particularly for children who've been left behind? And so our solutions are to make sure we involve other stakeholders in place, to do the right thing. And we surely know faith-based communities have done it for a number of years.
Oh, they have, and I've commented so many times. A lot of the faith-based organizations and other just good charities, their work is largely unsung. People, unless you happen to be involved in a particular one, and even in your own community, you don't know what these groups do. You don't know all the good they're doing. And I think in this particular case, this idea of helping families or some family members incarcerated and also helping them when that person is released and has to start dealing life again, this is a really smaller niche thing. I mean, there are a lot of charities that are involved with diseases and hunger and poverty, but there's a little bit of a stigma dealing with families when there has been incarceration, and you kind of wonder what was going on in that family. But I love this idea, and again, I want to go back to the goodness and greatness of America and Americans. People like you, people like AEI, are doing something just out of love of our country, love of our society, love of your fellow man. I just think it's fabulous.
When we were discussing the idea internally, a few things came to mind. Every day in America, 5 million children wake up without hearing good morning from a parent. And why? And that's because mom or dad is among the 2.0 million who are incarcerated in state or federal prisons. Now, if you add the 11.4 million who cycle through local jails each year, it's clear that too many American children are living lives interrupted. And so what we can do as caregiving adults who are physically not in the children's home is to use public policy, common sense, philanthropy, and just a dose of a good heart to figure out what can we do to help. And so as a think tank, part of our job is to disseminate ideas. And as a result of that, you and I are now on the call having a conversation. Otherwise, we likely would not have had.
Absolutely. We're speaking tonight with Gerard Robinson, who is with the American Enterprise Institute, which is a think tank and a do tank. I love that. I'm going to try to remember that. That's a great expression, because you can think, but you got to get moving too. And we only have guests. We have under a minute left this, but I noticed you have this reentry project, referring also to how you help people being released. And I was mentioning to my friends here off air in between that I was aware where our adult daughter lives in San Francisco. They had a restaurant near her home that the founder created the restaurant and exclusively for the purpose of employing ex-felons, employing people to help them get back in the working world. Isn't that something that we need more opportunities like that?
Yes, because once you're released from prison and you're giving maybe $50 and a few other items, it's a good luck perspective. but we know nearly 2/3 will come back within a 5-year period. So that recidivism rate is simply too high. Frankly, a lot of felons cannot receive a job because they have a felon and there's a box they have to check. So opening up opportunities for the formerly incarcerated, or what I refer to as returning citizens, to have a good quality job makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
You mentioned, yep.
You know what? That guy back in the booth turns the music on. We're speaking with Gerard Robinson very quickly. The website is aei.org. Is that right?
Sure is.
Okay, Gerard, thank you so much for calling in tonight.
Thank you, and I hope your listeners continue to do the great work they're doing.
Thank you. It's Debbie Georgatos. Ladies, can we talk?